now we can start to get into some of the rest of the show after that story. There is a lot to get into. It's an absolute laundry list of NFL news to talk about today. I have this little widget that's provided by Spotrac that basically lets me know whenever there's a new signing, a new extension, retiring, fifth-year option. Basically, when any transaction happens in the NFL in this free agency period, they have this widget, this bot that updates it automatically, and I've been glued to my monitor over the past 24 hours just watching all this news come in, and some interesting stuff, and we'll get to that. But I think the place that I want to start is talking about the retirement of Drew Brees. And I think out of respect for Drew, it's appropriate that he goes first. And now we can talk about what a fantastic career Drew had, and we can look at him in the scope of an all-time great quarterback, and I think that Drew Brees deserves it. I don't need to sit here and tell you how good of a quarterback Drew Brees was, and how not only this past season, even though the numbers weren't there for Brees, even though, yes, it looked like he took a step back, the toughness, the talent, and the strength that Brees had to be able to play through multiple broken ribs for the remaining part of that season and help lead that team that looked lost at times to the divisional round of the playoffs. It was nothing short of extraordinary. And I'm glad that Drew Brees went out with that scope in mind, saying, well, okay, he didn't go out with a Super Bowl victory like he would have wanted to, but he was able to fight through a tremendous amount of pain and still perform at an above average level to lead his team to the playoffs. And I said multiple times on the show when previously talking about Drew Brees that I felt like if he played another year, he would have run the risk of having a Peyton Manning-esque retirement, which, granted, some people are saying, well, Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl his last season in the NFL, and, that's definitely the way that you would want to go out. And yes, that's absolutely true, but if you remember watching that season, at least in my memory, I remember, the first of all, the Denver Broncos defense absolutely carrying the rest of that team. I mean, that defense was incredible to watch. The defense was really carrying the Broncos, and Peyton Manning was struggling pretty much the entire season. It was a gigantic headline or gigantic storyline throughout the season that Peyton Manning was struggling, and you're watching you're watching him on Sundays, and you're saying, yeah, this isn't the best football he's played, and it's like, it's time to retire. And obviously, if you're weighing your options, I think you would probably want the Super Bowl victory at the end of the day, but the way that we remember Peyton Manning, apart from his illustrious career, of course you remember all the highlights. Of course you remember the Brady versus Manning games, at least I watched growing up. But when it comes to the way that we remember Peyton Manning retiring, it's always, yeah, he didn't look so good. It was his time to go. And that was the last impression that we got of Peyton as a player. And I'm happy that for Drew, we were able to say that, yeah, he took a step back, but he still had flashes of being Drew Brees, and you can go into retirement saying that, yeah, he probably could play another season, but for his health's sake, for his family's sake, and probably for the team's sake as well, so they can prepare to move on, it's probably better that he did retire. And we can celebrate an illustrious career for Brees, as I said. And it's great for Brees. I mean, if you remember, he spent 3 years with the San Diego Chargers, and they thought that he was going to be not a good quarterback in the NFL, and they traded him away, and they drafted Philip Rivers. And, of course, Philip Rivers had a fantastic NFL career as well, and he retired this offseason as well. And great for Drew Brees to then go to the Saints and become the Drew Brees that we all knew and loved and expected. What a phenomenal quarterback, and I think the league is really going to miss him. He's a caring individual. He really means a lot to the city of New Orleans, especially delivering that Super Bowl to them right after the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. That was gigantic for that city. There's going to be a lot of love for him there for a long time, and I'm glad that he didn't play another season and potentially got hurt again or just didn't look so good. And I'm over the moon for Drew Brees. I couldn't be happier for Drew Brees. And now the Saints have moved on into the future, and they have secured their quarterback position, sort of. It's not like there's any definitive answer. I think essentially if you're looking for a headline as to what the Saints did, they basically ran back their same situation from last season. They gave Taysom Hill a 4-year, $140 million contract, but all years are voidable. So you're going to sit there and say 4 years, $140 million $140 million contract for that quarterback? You must be insane. Look, all of those years are voidable, and Taysom Hill is probably not even going to see 5% of that cash. If you look at the base salary, and I'm recalling this off of my memory, it's legitimately maybe $1.5 million a year guaranteed. It's not a lot. All of those years are voidable, so it's essentially, this is saving cap space for the Saints. It's going to be a promising, big contract, but Taysom Hill probably is not going to see any of that money. He's going to stay on the team for 4 years, and or he's going to continue to stay on the Saints, and they're going to continue to restructure the contract to stay under the salary cap, because that's what the Saints have been doing for the past couple of years, as they've been playing with that fire. Taysom Hill, I'm assuming, is going to be the starter at first, and of course you would want to bring Taysom Hill back anyways, whether it's as a quarterback or not, because Taysom Hill is just the Swiss Army knife of the Saints offense at this point. He could run it, do the read option, he could play receiver, he can throw the ball, kind of. And that's when you bring in the other guy, Jameis Winston, 1 year, $12 million deal, $5 million base salary with an extra $7 million in incentives. As I said, the Saints basically are running back their same situation from last year, where if Taysom Hill isn't performing in the exact way that Sean Payton rather, and whether Payton sees something better in Winston in practice, they can just plug Winston in and have a more pocket presence quarterback that could run the offense a little bit better. And that's what Jameis is. He had the opportunity to go elsewhere, and he didn't. I think he probably was looking to go to New England before Cam Newton re-signed to New England, and he re-upped with the Saints. So, with Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston there, in my personal opinion, I think Jameis Winston would be the better fit at quarterback for the Saints at this point. A lot of the problems that Jameis had in Tampa Bay was that he was throwing the ball down the field way too much. Bruce Arians was saying, look, we've got no running game, really. We've got no short passing game, so let's just have Jameis throw the ball down the field. And it worked in terms of passing yards and touchdowns, but it also worked in terms of turning the ball over. And with the Saints offense, in which a lot of it is mid to short range, it's a lot of slants to Michael Thomas, it's a lot of throws to Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. There are better opportunities for Jameis Winston to be successful in that offense, and I think that he can be successful in that offense, especially after watching Drew Brees for a year. And Jameis Winston actually had a very touching tribute to Drew Brees on his social media that I found extremely interesting. So there is a connection there between Brees and Winston, and hopefully Winston was able to learn from Brees in his time in New Orleans so far. So Taysom Hill's probably going to be the starter week 1. They're going to try and do some things with the offense. I wasn't exactly sold on the Taysom Hill New Orleans Saints offense watching it this past season. I think Jameis is the better quarterback. The Saints are going to have some decisions to make, but essentially they felt like Brees was going to retire. Everybody should be happy that he didn't hurt himself again next year and that he didn't diminish his lasting memory as a quarterback in the NFL and have a bad out, so to speak. And the Saints are going to continue to try to get under the salary cap with more voidable contracts like the one they gave Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is a absolute team player. To take 4 years and basically have all this money in front of him and knowing that he's not going to be able to see a cent of it, because that's just how voidable contracts work. So, hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this segment from the Hard Headed Sports Podcast. You've heard what I've had to say. Now I'm interested to hear what you think as well. If you enjoyed this highlight from the show and want to watch more highlights from the show as they come out after the show's completion, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all very soon.